Hello, mainstreamers and cinephiles and everybody in between. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlyn.
And Operation Silver Screen is a go.
Hello, welcome to Operation Silver Screen. This cinema-related operation has been created to clear our desks from stacks of open cases. And what are these cases? Well, even being the film lovers that we are, Brian and I still have a huge backlog of must-see films that we still need to experience. So each week we'll tackle a film that either one of us or both of us still need to see. We'll then provide a debrief of our week's mission, given our outlook on the film's popularity and significance, as well as provide our opinion on whether or not it's worth seeing and other fun insights. So Brian, what was our mission this week?
Yeah, so actually... Oh, wait. Sorry, guys. Caitlyn's got to grab something, which is good because I have to tell you something right now, okay? That is not my co-host. I'm telling you, it's not my co-host. All right, it looks like Caitlyn. It has the same annoying voice as Caitlyn. She has the same 100 allergies, but that is not my co-host. Okay, you guys gotta trust me on this one. Oh, hey, Caitlyn.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, nothing. I was just telling our audience that today we're going to be doing the remake and the original of the popular sci-fi horror thriller alien invasion not political and social pop culture film Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956 and 1978.
That's quite a mouthful there.
Yes, there's a lot that goes on with this film. And the reason that we chose to do this film is in anticipation of Nope, the third movie of Jordan Peele, third feature-length film. And I think this is one of the most anticipated films of this year. I know this is one of my most anticipated. Is it one of your most anticipated, Caitlyn?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely really excited for it. Hesitantly excited after Us. Us was alright, but I mean, I trust Jordan Peele. I'm putting my faith in him again.
I think everybody, I think that's a large reason why people are excited for this movie, because this is like, I don't know, this is kind of like watching the championship. Like, is Jordan Peele, are we going to get a Get Out? Or are we going to get a Us? Because I feel like those are two different. I think both are good movies. I think Get Out is a fantastic movie. I recently declared it my second favorite movie of all time, and maybe one day it will become number one. I only have a number one and a number two. This is the first time I ever had a number two. Absolutely love Get Out, and everybody did. Like, it was a cultural phenomenon. It was a huge surprise hit, but then Us came out, and everybody was already talking about how Jordan Peele, of course, is the next Hitchcock. He's the black Hitchcock. And Us, I think most people were a little disappointed by it. I mean, I think it was a decent movie, but one of the craziest things about it is that Get Out is one of the tightest scripts of its kind, of like a mystery and a thriller. And Us is not that. Like, even as you're watching it, you have a lot of questions that just don't get answered. Like, the whole film does not make sense. It does not add up at all. So I think Nope is like, all right, where's Jordan Peele really at? Can we really call him, the next great filmmaker, or one of the best filmmakers out there?
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, Us might have been better if it didn't come after Get Out, but that's just set such a high standard that it would be hard to match that. But then Us is a subpar film. It has really good performances. It has some good sequences that are really nice, but yeah, it was not it. Although, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Us kind of is a Body Snatchers film, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I think that kind of makes me a little bit more excited for Nope, to see what kind of route he goes with his alien story now.
Yeah, definitely. And we were originally we wanted to do an active alien invasion movie. Like, seeing the aliens come down and having a huge interaction with Earth, and actually like seeing the aliens, because in Nope, depending on the trailer that you've seen, it's all kind of been out there. We know that the alien it's about an alien invasion, a UFO comes down. And however, you and I, Caitlyn, we pretty much seen like all the movies, all the must-see, all the modern movies of where aliens come down to Earth. Movies such as, the biggest one, the one that I was really hoping you hadn't seen, was Encounters with the Third Kind, or Of a Third Kind. That's probably the biggest one out there. Then you have movies like Arrival, Super 8, all of which are great movies. And then we're actually going to be most likely making a list and posting it up on our social media, which will give you that information at the end of the show. But yeah, we kind of saw all of those, and this kind of hits the middle ground. This is a bit passive, a bit active. I mean, the aliens are plant life, so you see them, but you're still seeing humans. It's kind of a you know better than I, Caitlyn. Is this a cosmic horror, or is this just I don't know. Like, I feel like this has its own term.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think that it could be in the right setting, which with a little bit of circumstances change, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later. I think it could, just because of its similarity to The Thing.
Yes. And another thing that we're going to be doing for this show, so we're actually going to be talking about the 1956 version and the 1978 version. However, the main focus is the 1978 remake of the original. This also is an adaptation of a book of the same title, which was made in 1952, I believe. 1952 or maybe 1954. It was within the 50s, and it was shortly after it was made into a movie. And both of these movies are must-sees, but I think the remake one is the more accessible one. From what I hear, the remake is also the more popular one. And we'll talk a little bit about how this works as a horror remakes and kind of horror remakes overall. But I've seen the 1978 originally, and I have not seen the 1956, so I got to watch that for the first time. So we're doing a little something different, doing two movies here. However, we're going to be seeing this in the future as well. I already have some movies planned out that we'll be doing something similar to. But we're going to go ahead and just do both films because they are very much alike. The remake is, one, a really good remake, and two, it expands a lot. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about in the remake goes the same for the original as well, or at least for me, it's going to. And as we get into the movies, just know that there are not going to be any spoilers for the first portion of the movie. And do not worry, okay? We are going to let you know when those spoilers are here. We're not going to go ahead and do a silent invasion and just drop the spoilers in and wait for you to go to sleep and just whisper in your ears the ending. No, we'll go ahead and let you know when we're going to open up that classified folder. So like I said, this is a movie that I have seen. I've seen the original, the 1978. I have not seen the original. Caitlyn, you have seen neither. Why is that?
Before I get into it, I just want to say The Body Snatchers is the name of the novel by Jack Finley, and it was originally serialized in a magazine in 1954, so that was how it was originally released, and then it was later published as a book in 1955. Just going back to that year.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, I have not seen either of these movies. I have seen The Invasion. I'm blanking on what year, but it's the fourth remake, I think, of this movie. It's starring Nicole Kidman. It's definitely the most recent one that's come out. It has some differences, but the premise is the same. So I have seen that one. Was it good? I don't remember. I don't think so. But it was a movie. But as far as the original Invasion of Body Snatchers, I didn't really know that the 70s version existed, first of all. I know that there was one with Donald Sutherland in it, but for some reason my mind wasn't connecting the dots between that being a remake in the 70s. And as far as the 1950s go, I think it was one that didn't really interest me because of the politics kind of surrounding it. Some of these like older horror films, there definitely are politics at play that don't really interest me, although I think we'll get more into that a little bit later. But I kind of felt like I knew what I was going to get with this film, although I think I've since changed my mind a little bit on that after watching Night of the Living Dead. I think that I'm a little bit more receptive to some of these movies from the 50s, from these horror movies.
Yes, the movie that you saw, unfortunately, was the 2007 The Invasion, which was the Warner Bros. Remake. It was the fourth remake of this film, or the third remake of this film, the fourth installment And from what I hear, no, that is not a good movie. And I watched the trailer. No, I did not watch the whole movie. This isn't one of our legacy sequels, so I didn't go into the whole franchise, luckily. But I did go and watch the trailer. And yeah, what I expected to see is what I got. And it's something that I'll talk about later because there's something that this movie capitalizes on. And I can tell in the 2007 version, they go in a completely different direction, unless that's just the way they cut the trailer. But from what I can tell, and from that time period, 2007, because like between 2005 and 2011, they were doing a lot of horror remakes, which we talked about during Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And they were not good for a lot of reasons. They were doing sequels and prequels of all types. And then there was another one, 1993, that was actually shelved. And I believe it was shelved by Warner Brothers as well. And it was kind of just slipped under the radar and thrown out there.
So it makes me wonder, are we due for another Invasion of the Body Snatchers sequel coming up or remake coming up?
I have an idea for that, actually. And we'll talk about it because I think now is a good time for one, if we're talking about like how this movie can be used politically. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we do go through some ups and downs. Actually, I would say, we talked about Jordan Peele. I would say Jordan Peele kind of started a bit of a trend with Get Out. And I would have to look into it to get the correct movies. And Get Out was a very original movie. It is a very original movie. Mm-hmm. We still haven't had anything like it. And Us, for all its ups and downs, it's still an original movie. It's a very original movie. And now the director has to kind of prove themselves at first before the studio goes ahead and allows for original products, unfortunately. But sometimes it makes sense. So, but yeah, I think right now we have that trend of legacy sequels. I don't know if Invasion of the Body Snatchers will, especially the way this one ends, if we'd be able to get that legacy sequel, maybe. However, I do want to go back to the 1970s, Caitlyn, because you said that you weren't interested in the 1970s horror.
50s.
50s. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand now. Because I was about to say 70s.
The 70s I'm interested in.
Yeah, I would say the peaks of horror is 1970 and 2010. 2020 still has to prove itself, but I would say it's already weak. I would say the height of horror is 1970 and the 2010s. And just to throw some movies out there from the 1970s, because I already have it pulled up. We have The Exorcist, Halloween, we have Jaws, Alien, and if you like it, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Mm-hmm. I mean, it did start something. We had Carrie, The Omen, Suspiria. We Don't Look Now, which I'm a little also has Donald Sutherland, and I don't know how I feel about that one. I think we have to do that one day. But yeah, 1970s, great decade for horror.
Why do you say the 2010s? That's what's throwing me off a little bit. Because I'm blanking on what came out in the 2010s.
So many great films that I don't have pulled up right now because I wasn't.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. Ready. I'm thinking. Never mind. You're right. 2010s. So I was thinking like 2000s. I was like,
oh, 2000s. No, 2000s is debatably one of like just the worst decades of film.
2000s is I would bad. Say, I was like,
yeah.
No.
I would even say actually thinking about Get Out for one was a horror movie of the 2010s. 2016 was a great year. It's probably the best year in the 2010 for horror movies. Mm-hmm. We also had Under the Shadow, which I absolutely love. That's one of my all-time favorite horror movies as well. There's just a lot of great horror movies and actually alien invasion movies as well. I believe Super 8 was just 2010 or no, I think it was prior. But what was the movie? Arrival and Annihilation. Two great alien invasion movies.
Also, another one of my favorites, but I'll come back to that later. But you're missing on that list. But
yeah, I'm just thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it makes sense now. For some
Super 8 was 2011.
Okay, good, but it fits. Yeah, for some reason I was thinking 2000s for a second, and I was like, I don't know about that. But yeah, 2010s makes a lot more sense.
So, Caitlyn, you wanted to talk about the reception of this film?
Yeah, as far as the 1956 movie, it was better received as the years went on, but it does currently hold a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry in 1994, and it's regularly cited in top horror and science fiction lists. That includes its 9th best film in AFI's 10 top 10 in science fiction genre. It's also IGN's 15 best sci-fi picture, and is included in the best movie of all time list from Entertainment Weekly and Time. And that's just a little bit of a list for that. And as far as the 1978, it did win a Saturn Award for Best Science Fiction Film and Best Directing nod to the director, who is Philip Kaufman. It's often cited as one of the best remakes of all time. It currently has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 92%, and like its predecessor, it's also sometimes listed in Best Science Fiction Film lists, including a list by Complex in 2018.
Yes, and with the AFI list, it also has the original in their list of 100 Years and 100 Thrills. And this is in the 1001 Movies to See Before You Die, the original. My theory is, though, that they just want to include one film in their list, and usually like in these classic lists, you would go with the classic, the original, because you wouldn't have the new one without the original. But I don't know, I could just be defending for the 1978 because I'm really fond of that movie. But as far as the remake 1978, this was listed as number 2 best horror remake on Rotten Tomatoes list of top 25 horror remakes. It was just behind Evil Dead 2, to put it in perspective, because Evil Dead 2 is probably known as the best remake out there for a lot of reasons, even though it's forgotten to be an actual remake. It's quite confusing. Maybe one day we'll talk about that. But to show like how horror remakes, it's not just making this list. Well, it actually is just making this list because this is a horrible list. And I don't blame Rotten Tomatoes because they just didn't have anything to choose from. This movie starts out with My Bloody Valentine 3D. That's how... And it like half the list is just mediocre films. Remaking movies is not easy, and remaking a horror film is even harder, because actually even making a horror film, making a really good one, is hard. We talk about it a lot, Caitlyn, that horror is a small list. Like there's only a handful, like 2 handfuls of great movies. As far as my movie list goes, like my library of movies, horror is my smallest collection of film. And I mean, unless you're really into horror, I think you're laughing about my library, quote unquote.
No, I'm just laughing because that's probably my largest. I feel like I got to a point where the only DVDs I was buying was horror or Criterion Collection.
Oh no, it's probably like as far as like physical DVD, physical Blu-rays.
Oh, you're talking about your digital library.
Yeah, I'm talking about my digital library,
okay.
Quote unquote. Yeah, legally obtained. So
it could be your iTunes library.
Yeah, my iTunes library, guys. They're gonna get a warrant for that and see nothing in there. Yes. So yeah, is there just I'm not sure if I ever mentioned on the show, but what I say is we only get 1 or 2 good horror movies a year. And if we're really lucky, we get 3. But we usually get 1 or 2 good ones, and then maybe a third and fourth that are decent. Which is why I will always remember 2016, because we got 4 good horror movies. Though sometimes I get debated on one of them, which is the one where the lights turn off and there's a monster in the dark. Lights off, something lights.
It wasn't a monster, it's just a dude. That one? With the guy?
It's a demon.
That just had... Oh, I thought you were talking about... Lights Off is the one with the dude that just had a remake recently, and it turned him, like, a sexual predator into the good guy.
No, that's not Lights Off. You're thinking about...
Lights Off.
No, you're thinking about that Don't Speak movie. You talking about with the blind dude?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not that. That's, shoot. That's not Lights Off.
I thought that was Lights Off.
Why would they care about the lights off? The dude's blind.
I don't know. I thought he, like, could only see, like, light or something. Lights Out. Oh, no. Never mind. That is something different.
Yeah, Lights Out is the one I'm talking about, though. I was like, lights off? I mean, the lights do go off.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know anymore. Yeah. What am I thinking of it? Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe. Yeah, see? Yeah, because blind people can hear still.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was Lights Off. I don't think I liked Lights Out. I don't think I did.
Yeah, I think you were the one that didn't like it.
Fine.
I think it was fine, but I gave it bonus points because it was like, it was one of the few times I was real. Yeah, better than usual, and I think the scares worked, especially when it comes to jump scares. I thought those were really effective. By the way, I'm glad we had this conversation before you were ever hunted by a blind person, because I would have hated to be with you and we're getting hunted and you shut off all the lights and you're like, all right, we're safe. He can't do anything. The lights are off.
I mean, I didn't think that that was an actual thing, but some of these movies, they, like, defy logic, so...
The blind person can't see anything now. He's good.
Oh, The Love Witch also came out in 2016. Neon Demon.
That's right. I still got to watch that.
Train to Busan. The Wailing, though I didn't really like The Wailing.
Nah, I didn't hear great things about The Wailing.
Raw.
That's that elevated horror I don't think I can get into.
I don't think The Wailing was elevated horror.
I feel like it was... No, art horror, I mean.
I don't think it was that either. It was just...
No?
It was.
Oh, okay.
It's K-horror. It reminded me, like, if you made Memories of Murder a horror film.
Was there a booty?
There was not, and it would have been better if there was a booty. But it's...
Just drop kick a ghost with a booty on?
But I think it even has the same... Does it have the same actor? It might. I don't know. But I was not a fan. Although there is some funny lines from this possessed little girl in it. That was a comedy, but overall it's like a 2.5 hour movie, so I don't think I recommend
that's what was
it.
kind of turning me off. Now speaking of this movie, this movie was not 2.5 hours long, though we watched both films. Though the first one's only 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Rather short film. And this film deals, both of these films, again, these films are very similar in premise. 1978 just expands upon it. And this is about an alien plant life which ascends upon Earth. I don't know how it works when you, like, yeah, it comes down Earth, but space doesn't really have an up and down. So it just...
That's a good question.
It does something.
That's a good question.
Right? What's his name? Neil
deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah, hopefully he's listening. Can explain to us what's going on. Or Christopher Nolan. But I feel like Christopher Nolan would just confuse me more.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be like, all right, well, first what you gotta do is if you take the bookcase and you turn it to its side. But anyway, so this alien plant life comes to Earth where it mutates and replaces humans. But only a few take notice. But it is questioned if they'll be able to convince and prepare the world or if they will remain silent as the invasion continues. And with the remake, it's all this and more. It's a pretty good description, right, Caitlyn? It's a rather simple premise.
I guess. I feel like the premise to me didn't entirely make sense, but I think we'll talk about that as we get into opinion, unless you want to go ahead and move into that.
No, let's go into the opinion. Let's start with your opinion. Not seeing this movie before, what did you think of them?
Well, let's start with the 1956 version. And I gotta say, this one was a rough run for me. I was quite bored watching this film. Quite bored. I didn't, though, it did surprise me, but it was actually more of a love story than I originally thought. So I thought that was an interesting take on it. There were some things I liked about the cinematography of this film, actually, which it did surprise me because I wasn't expecting to see cinematography moments that was going to stick out to me in this film, but there was some good, like, depth of field. There was some good lighting, good composition. So there was moments in that film that were redeemable. But the problem with the premise that I didn't fully understand was that in order for you to be taken over by these aliens that emerged from the pods, you have to go to sleep. And that's when they take over. And that's what confused me. Because I wasn't sure, like, if it had something to do with, like, a biological infection. I think that would have made sense to me, but I don't think it fully expanded on that. Like, I was confused. Like, if I were to go off onto an island completely remote and I took a nap there, would I still be infected even though there's nothing there to infect me? Or, like, I was a little bit confused how the going to sleep process worked.
Yeah, the original does it a little bit differently, and I think the remake, there's even a bit of a plot hole when it comes to how the pods take your body over. But for the 1956 version, it made a lot more sense to me when I thought about if they're an advanced alien race, then they have Bluetooth capabilities.
Okay, this is not the explanation that I was expecting, but continue.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense to me, because they didn't have to be connected to the plants. They just had to be in the vicinity, and the plants took over their body. They made a replica of them, and well, you actually don't even see like anyone really die in the original, but in the remake, it takes kind of they have like their life force drained. They have their body drained of like everything, and they get turned into a husk. In the remake, it actually has to have physical contact with you at first, but there was a moment when it didn't have physical contact. But it looks like once it has that physical contact and it continues to grow, it continues to hold. It like takes something from that person, and it continues to grow. I guess maybe if you think about like how the spores are in the air, and maybe the spores communicate or go back and forth. I don't know. There was like something else in there that didn't really make sense, because like I said, in the remake, they're actually having physical contact. That makes sense. In this one, they don't show that. They just start growing, and they somehow replace them.
Yeah, I think that confused me. And like I said, like I didn't understand, like, is there any scenario where you could go to sleep? Like if you were far enough away, or in like had yourself locked in a room away from them, like could you go to sleep then, or just you could never go to sleep?
Yeah, I felt like once they went to sleep, like I think once they were touched and once they were infected, if they go to sleep, then their body would be drained, because there's that moment where somebody in the remake, they no longer have contact, but as they're sleeping, like they close their eyes, and the other one, the replica, open their eyes. So I think at that point, like, yeah, some kind of telepathy or something.
Okay, that makes sense, I think.
I mean, it doesn't, but you gotta kind of suspend disbelief for a second.
Yeah, like I don't think that was a deciding factor for these movies at all, but it was a plot point that was bothering me. Another thing I liked for the 1956 version is that it kind of is a mystery. It kind of starts off as a mystery. It starts out like a medical mystery, this whole thing that's going on. And as you slowly kind of figure out what exactly is happening, what's happening to humanity, I think I liked the way that was played out. Like I said, I think that this movie is just dated, and I think that it needed a remake to make it more interesting and to kind of expand on some of the themes that it presents.
I think I was a little bit bored too watching this one, but I think it's because I just got done watching the remake, which again does all this and more. So I kind of was rewatching the same movie in which I just watched for the third time. But I mean, I was still able to take a look at it objectively and see the things that you were talking about as well, that this does really set up that medical mystery. More so in that this is a bit different because people are recovering the next day. He even says, and I took a note of it, he says, I had 6 canceled appointments. Like 6 people one day said that they were hurt and something wasn't right, and the next day they were completely fine. So that makes it even more mysterious. Like, wait, how are they coming about this so quickly? In both of these movies, I wish I didn't know about before going in, but honestly, at this point, I mean, it's so big into pop culture. You know what this movie is about. Granted, you may be able to find a friend who's just completely like lives under a rock, and you can go ahead and see their reaction of these films. But I think still, again, looking at it objectively, like they were hitting the points that they needed to hit to make this a good mystery. And I see what you're saying with the love story, but I think it was more so, man, that man was just trying to he was just trying to get something with that woman, which I can't blame her. She was beautiful. She was
beautiful.
And she like introduced herself. I was like, whoa. It's yeah, like the whole time he was just taking any second he can to get a kiss in, which there were 2 kisses that worked though, because it kind of foreshadowed something else, and I liked that, and I liked how that led into a reveal. I think that was very well done. I noticed the shots as well. I was surprised because watching the 1950 movie, and we're talking about pre-French New Wave, I was thinking there were going to be a lot more sets, a lot more camera just looking in one direction, and you just have your characters going back and forth. However, there were a lot of, like you said, deception. There were a lot of different angles taken. There were a lot of outside shots and driving. And not just like your typical 1950s 40 driving where they're just turn the wheel back and forth and you have the green screen going by and nothing is, they just have something going on in the background on a treadmill.
Yeah, I do think that there were some good shots in this film. Going back to the love story for a second, I think something I liked in this original as opposed to the 70s version. Well, I won't say I liked it better, but I think that there's a certain subtext that I saw a little bit more in the 50s version. I kind of liked this idea. Maybe this is just me reading into it too much, but the two love interests in this film, they're both coming from a situation where they're both divorced and they're kind of starting this new relationship together. I think they used to date, correct, before they got married to their respective partners.
Yes, they used to, and she turned him down on his proposal because the proposal didn't even seem like it was real. It was impulsive.
So I kind of got the idea that these two characters, in coming back together after their failed marriages, they're kind of trying to play a role that isn't really their lives. And I kind of feel that in a way that they were in this kind of microcosm of their relationship, they were kind of aliens to this new thing that they were trying to form that didn't really fit for them. But maybe that's me reading way too far into it, but I kind of got that idea with that love story.
I can see it being read that way. I think it's deeper than what I saw. So I'm not gonna pop your thought bubble there. I saw something a little bit more shallow, which is you see their love being rekindled. It was just an interesting circumstance, and where it came into play is with these pod people taking over. One thing that they don't have is love, and that's something that the two main characters wanted to hold on most. And where I think that comes into play in the remake is that it doesn't really come into play. I think in the remake they focus more so on the hysteria and the psychological part of the movie than they do with the whole love. And I think with both movies they balance out the individualism, which is probably the main focus in these movies. Because I remember actually when I was watching, so I rewatched the remake first and then I watched the original for the first time. And as I was watching the remake, a line stuck out to me because they're arguing about like, we don't want to be turned into these people. And one of them says something about love, and it's real quick and it feels like it was just thrown in there and it stuck out to me. And then watching the original, I noticed, I was like, oh, okay, that's because the original was playing more on the whole love aspect.
Mm-hmm. There is a relationship in the remake, and there is some commentary from the doctor, from Leonard Nimoy's character in it, on marriage, and so there definitely is some commentary there. I think I'm just kind of struggling a little bit more to see how it connects with the theme, and that's something I wanted to ask you about and see what your thoughts were.
I think for the first one, it's all about one of the things that makes us human. Remake. Oh, for the remake, how I saw it is now Donald Sutherland and Brooke Adams, they have some kind of connection. They have a platonic relationship, but there seems to be a little bit more there. There's no denying it. There's definitely something more there. And Leonard Nimoy's character, the way he justifies the hysteria, because Brooke Adams compares herself. Actually, it kind of gets compared a couple times. Everybody that's having these issues is with their partner. They're noticing something different. And Leonard Nimoy's character, the way that he justifies it or he explains it to them or mansplains it to them is that they are just trying to get out of their marriage. And the reason that Brooke Adams' character could be trying to get out of her marriage is because she sees something more with Donald Sutherland's character. So maybe she's making it seem like her husband is not her husband anymore, or boyfriend. I forget their relationship. Boyfriend. And she can, boyfriend. And if she can make that justification in her mind, then that gives her enough justification to run away with Donald Sutherland, which she actually does in the movie.
Yeah, I got all of that. I just thought that maybe there was something deeper at play. I know that Leonard Nimoy's character complains about marriages not working like they used to. You know, that's always like, oh my goodness, people just don't stay together anymore. Marriages don't work out these days. And so I kind of wondered if there was supposed to be some kind of commentary there. Maybe that kind of goes into that theme of individualism. I'm not sure.
I don't think they were trying to make a commentary on it, but I think it was they developed a good reason to ground and explain this hysteria in a real world sense. Like, yeah, we know as an audience there's an alien invasion, but if these people were to actually come to us, this explanation probably makes the most sense, that people are trying to see something wrong within their marriage. But I don't think it was supposed to be like a commentary. It's just supposed to be what the character is, how the character is supposed to kind of prolong the inevitable.
I mean, not a commentary. It's just I felt like it was just part of the plot, and that was really it. I didn't see how it connected to the themes. I didn't understand how it was working thematically, because I feel like I said, in the 1956 version, thematically, I think that it kind of worked with this idea of people playing at being other people, whereas I don't think I saw anything that kind of served as a dynamic with the overarching theme, unless, like I said, it has to do with individualism.
No, I don't think it had anything to do with the overall theme. I think it was just a plot tool,
Okay.
just something to keep going. Like him being a healthcare worker, that gives them a reason to be in a lab later. So I don't think that goes into like the overall theme, but I think that's just something to move the plot along.
Which, would a restaurant health inspector be investigating alien invasions and plant health intricacies? I was a little confused by that.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, it gives them access, again, it just gives them access to the lab. What it reminded me of, because I was thinking of Get Out, of course, was his friend being a TSA agent.
Mm-hmm.
And him saying, like, TSA, we get things done. Just waiting for Donald Sutherland's character to be like, I'm a health inspector. We take care of things.
Yep, I was
We
waiting
handle
for that.
things. By the way, that was so quick of him to find that caper rat turd in that soup.
I know, it was insane.
Like the coincidence, the only boiling pot, and he looks directly in it and sees a rat turd, and he was right. So he's just, I don't know, he's a really good health inspector. He went in
is.
there, started sniffing about. He's like, there it is.
There's the turd. Overall, though, I definitely was more engaged with the remake than the original. I think that in general, there's a higher sense of dread in this film from the get-go. I mean, we talked about just in that opening scene, you have the priest on the swings with the kids, and I think that's a pretty good indication right away that something's kind of up right now. Something's not quite right.
Yes, that was actually Robert Duvall.
What?
And
Was it really?
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It was Robert Duvall. He was in the area and he did this for free. Actually, I think they gave him a jacket. They gave him some type of jacket and he said, yeah, I'll do the movie. And it's one of the few cameos in here because there's some cameos from the original actor, and then I believe the director. Yeah, the director's in here as well of the original. But yeah, it was Robert Duvall, and it was to make a alienation, and again, show you that something's up. It kind of starts out the weirdness already.
Yeah.
Or maybe Robert Duvall was just out there in a priest costume, swinging on the swing set, and they were like, "Is that Robert Duvall over there? Hey, turn the camera."
It might have been it. But yeah, I think that there's just a higher sense of dread and paranoia in this film overall compared to the original.
Most definitely. That's I'll let you finish your opinion of the remake, and I'll hit that point again. But that's a big thing with one of the things I appreciate in this film.
I think overall for the remake, I did like it. I liked that the horror elements were like kicked up on, well, quite a few notches, actually. I think we even have some body horror moments in this film. I will say, though, that the cinematography was actually lacking a bit for me, whereas I really liked it, or I did like things in the original. I think I was a little bit more nitpicky with this version. It felt a little bit dated at times. There were some interesting scenes there's the scene where Donald Sutherland is saving Elizabeth from the house that she lives in from being taken over. Her boyfriend has already been taken over and is planning on getting her to become an alien as well. And so he kind of goes and rescues her. And there's some shots in there that are really interesting shots. And I think they really help with that idea of horror. I think they really play on with that well. But the camera was so freaking wobbly, it irritated me so much. Like, these shots would have been so good if they were stable, but they were not stable. Like, I don't know if they had a broken tripod. People were like jumping behind the camera or something, just doing jumping jacks, and it was causing to do that little wiggle. But you see it a lot in 70s movies too, I feel. There's just the stability and the equipment they had to have that stability that we see in modern films just was not there.
I noticed those shots as well. Not sure if I noticed it the first and second time, but this time watching it, those bedroom shots, yeah, they didn't really work for me. Like, I always have like a certain admiration when people test out shots, as long as it's not like the whole movie. Like I was watching Ghost Rider 2. Somebody put Ghost Rider 2 on the TV recently.
Okay.
But it's such a horrible movie that I couldn't look away.
Mm.
But they had these camera shots where they just like dropped the camera on the floor and it was looking up, and then they just walked away for like 10 minutes. Those kind of like, when it's annoying like that, I don't respect it. It's like you're trying to be way too flashy, way too cool, and it's just not working. But here, like, they were taking chances with some things. So, I mean, I at least give them the respect, but I don't think it worked as well. And actually, now that you say it, if it was stable, it could have hit what they were going for better.
Mm-hmm. And with the lighting, I feel like it was nothing memorable. Like, I feel like in the original, there were even some close-ups, just some normal, like, one-shot, like, close-ups that were just so well lit. Like, Becky. Becky is the name of our heroine in the original. She looked so beautiful, but a lot of that too was just because of the lighting. They lit her very, very well.
Well, you know how they did it back then with the Scarlets and the glamour shots.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? The glamour shots?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like when the beautiful young woman comes in and she just like lights up the screen.
Yeah.
They always have that, and I think it really only works in black and white films, really, and kind of and a little bit with the Technicolor. I don't think you can really do it in a modern sense without it being so in your face.
Well,
But
I feel like
I did notice those.
I have watched things where the characters they have like kind of a glow to them, and it's just because of how it's lit. Jane the Virgin, we talked about Jane the Virgin before. That's one show where their lighting is definitely well suited for those characters, that it just makes them look amazing.
Yeah. Well, I said with Jane the Virgin too, is it being a telenovela kind of parody, it's kind of over dramatic, so it works in that sense.
Yeah, it
with
does.
the lighting.
That's true.
You don't question it. No, I always thought about going back to that show and like actually watching it, because I just watched it with my ex. Would watch it and I'll be like in another room or playing the game or something. But it was the only show that she watched, because she watched a lot of CW shows. The only one that I actually really liked. And like every episode was hitting for me for the most part.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I noticed those shots as well. There were some really good close-ups in the original. There's one where the main actor is above Becky. The doc is above Becky, and you get a shot on his face, and he's covered in dirt. It's a really good shot. And then when he's going and he's trying to warn people that they are being invaded, that also has some really good shots with it. Especially with again with moving vehicles, something I don't think you saw a lot with pre-French New Wave.
But yeah, so compared to the 50s one where I enjoyed that cinematography, the 70s fell a little bit flat for me. But like I said, it overall had that better sense of story overall and better sense of horror. And in the original, you really didn't see that many sci-fi elements at all. You saw the pods kind of bursting, and then that was the only kind of sci-fi imagery you really had in that movie. And then this really took it up a notch with that.
Oh, this definitely took it up a notch in 1978 with especially with the practical effects, which I thought hold up really well. Of course, we'll talk about it more during that portion of the show. But there's just the whole scene where they're growing out of the pods, and it goes on for a while. But it's horrifying. It's effective.
It was gross at times.
Very, very gross. Talk about the atmosphere before I totally forget and lose it. You mentioned that the atmosphere was. I don't think you particularly said the atmosphere, but I think the suspense and atmosphere is really seen in the 1978 version. It's one of the things that I really enjoy about that movie. Like you said, that mystery is there, and I think 78 capitalizes on it by when you're watching the movie in the background, you see all these characters. They're looking at them. They're looking all around. You can tell that something is up, which is why I said I would love to have seen this movie without knowing what was going on, because it's very off-putting. You're like, why is everybody looking at not just our main characters, but kind of everybody seems really aware. Is very odd. And the music with this, with the background noises, I noticed it more the third time watching it, just how loud this movie really is. Like, this movie doesn't have a lot of silent parts. Really, the only full silence you get is the end credits, which they didn't design any music for, and it ends in silence. And that's the only really time that you get a break in this movie. And I was reading about it. The movie starts up with a lot of nature sounds in the background, digenic sounds, I think is what they call them. It's a lot of, you hear like crickets and birds chirping and nature sounds. And then towards the end of the film, you start to hear a lot of machine whirring and industrial noises. And I think that works really well because towards the end of the film, things start to close in. It starts to get real claustrophobic. The pod people have grown in numbers. They're not just looking and staring anymore. They're actively on the move. And I think having that noise in the background was such a great play on the composer part, on everybody who worked on that portion of it. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did notice that as I was watching, but I didn't make that connection. So that's interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't notice until the third time watching it, and I was starting to hear the noises. Like, I'm starting to tell something here. And I think it's, yeah, and of course you have like the whole hysteria, and you finally get into that portion, like, who's who? Like, who's actually, who's an actual human and who's a pod person now? And I think this movie, I think this is a great example of atmospheric horror out there. Mm-hmm. Something that we've seen more so by Ari Aster, who did Midsummer. I think Midsummer is a great modern example of that. And I have to, say that, this is one of the best out there. It works really well, and the pacing helps out a lot with that atmosphere. I think even though they added more time, sometimes by adding more to the movie, already when you have a core original, it can feel like things were just added in there. But this just had a great pace of just building and building and building and building. Like, it rarely ever came back down.
I don't know that it was always upward momentum for me. I think sometimes it did drag a little bit in parts, like outside of the main action moments. Like, I think sometimes we followed certain characters away, and when that would happen, that's when I think it would drag a little bit for me. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm trying to think of what portion. I don't know if you want to save it for spoilers.
For example...
Oh, you're talking about like when you're following Jeff Goldblum and his wife's...
I feel like sometimes it dragged a little bit there. Although I was interested just because it was Jeff Goldblum, and I think he does well on the screen. I mean, he does. He's captivating no matter what he's doing. But there's other times, like when they first separated, or I guess they separated. No, but after they separated. So Jeff Goldblum and his wife leave so that they can get away. And they just split up, basically. And I think at that point, when we start to follow them away from the core group, I got a little bit more bored with it.
Okay. Yeah, it does. I would say, like, it does slow down a little bit, but I think it slows down, like, if you were to look at it at a wavelength, Like it was still kind of on the same level. I mean, you had to breathe at some point. And I think that was the breathing area.
Yeah.
But I think like they put you up at a certain spot. Like if you're climbing a mountain and then you start going horizontal instead of vertical.
Yes.
I don't know how mountains work.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were kind of there. You were kind of you're going vertical, but then you're going horizontal. But I don't think it really declines.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I agree. But those parts, there were a couple parts that dragged. But I also don't know that I can tell you fully which parts because, like, I feel like I was more likely to tune out in those parts than I would like the rest of the movie. There were moments that were highs and lows, I guess you can say.
Yeah, gotcha. You wanted to talk about the cast and crew as well, right?
Yeah, so what did you think about the characters here and the casting for this movie?
I'm a huge fan of Donald Sutherland. I think I don't know if I can call him one of my favorite actors yet. I still need to watch a lot of his movies. I've seen him in quite a few things. He's in one of my favorite movies. Hopefully we get to watch it this Thanksgiving as long as no other legacy sequels come out, which is Ordinary People, which I think he does fantastic in. I forgot if he won an Oscar for that or not. But I think he is a thespian and it really shows. He's a fantastic actor. I think he gives like all the emotions in this movie and he does them all really well, showing his love, showing his care, showing his despair, even being funny at times, knocking out old women. It's fantastic.
That was a good moment.
Yeah. He even I found out that he did his own stunts for this movie as well, which was interesting. Granted, this isn't Mission Impossible. He's not scaling a building, but he is doing some things around some explosives that actors usually wouldn't do. He ended up missing something, but he was able to come back around. But what I found interesting learning about that, and I want to bring it up now because I think it's the only time that it can fit, but I just can't find out any other information about it. I was reading in the IMDb trivia that related to this, an extra missed his cue and was severely injured during an explosion.
Oh my gosh.
But I think I saw it because while I was watching it the third time, as Donald Sutherland's running, an explosion happens and you see like a fiery blaze. It's not CGI. It hits somebody that's running out of Donald Sutherland and he just drops. And I was watching, I was like, how did they do that? I was like, that was really realistic. Like, looking at 1978 technology, looking at it being practical effects, I mean, the guy was pretty clothed. I don't know if he had on fireproof clothing, but I'm guessing right there, for anybody who hasn't seen the movie yet, when you watch it, take a look at it. I think that's where it occurs. And I'm guessing the insurance and the studio gave him money and then they kind of pushed everything underneath the rug. And that's why you can't find anything on it. So I just want to give a shout out to that extra. Just being an extra uncredited, putting his life on the line.
Seriously.
Though that's probably not what he signed up for.
Probably not.
I like the other actors you mentioned. Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum is always great. You see his rambling that he does. Even though there's a part where he's doing it doesn't make sense. Like, you can see the guy's on the phone. Like, dude, is there something wrong with you? Like, he's literally on the phone and he's just going and going. But it's quite hilarious while he's doing it. I think Brooke Adams carries a lot of this film. She's almost at times she feels like she's the main character of this movie. And I'm not sure if that's just the screen time they give her and her plot points or the way she's carrying it. But I think also next to Donald Sutherland, she does a great job being able to mirror his level. And then Leonard Nimoy is a great addition. Like, seeing him here is one, surprising because nobody thinks about him outside of Spock. And rest in peace to him, of course. But he was a great actor. Like, it makes me want to watch Star Trek a little bit to see more of him. So the cast in this was great.
Yeah, he's definitely good. I knew him for some of his voice acting too, but going into this, I only knew about Donald Sutherland as the big name in this movie, so I didn't know Jeff Goldblum or Leonard Nimoy was going to be in this, so that was definitely a pleasant surprise. I'm already blanking on her name. I just had it up. The girl. The girl.
Oh, you're talking about the one that plays Goldblum's wife, right?
Oh, no. I was talking about...
Or you're talking about Brooke Adams.
Brooke Adams. Sorry. As for Brooke Adams, I think that she had just such an expressive face, and she reminded me so much of the main character of Suspiria. So much. And I think for me, that helped me like her even more.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. You're talking about the original, right?
Yeah, the original.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Like, they look so similar. Like, I had to, like, check for a second. I was like, is this woman been in anything else? Is she actually Italian? I don't know.
Same time period.
Yeah, so I looked up Suspiria was the year before, so. I did really like Jeff Goldblum's wife. Jackie? Is her name Jackie? Nancy. I liked her a lot in the film, which just surprised me because she was just kind of a side character, but I think that even her characterization was really enjoyable. So I definitely think that compared to the original, the characterization in this one was far better.
Yes, Veronica Cartwright, and I didn't mention her, but I think she does do well. I don't think she's the standout, but she does well. Like we said, there's already a great cast here. She by no means is a weak link. She does just as well, and she's actually given a little bit more to do here than I was imagining when I first watched it, which I liked. This core group, you don't really see too much time with them. I wish you got to spend a little bit more time with them in a relaxed setting. All four of them, you get to see them separately, and I think that's something that the original had a chance to do, even though it was only for like 5 minutes. But you saw like really how these four, they like had a couple moments even when they had a cookout, and you got to see them relax, and that was interesting. That put them together and put some more weight on the characters.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that might also be why I said that it dragged a little bit for me for more when they separated, just because I feel like they did have a really good group dynamic and chemistry, so I would have liked to see more of that.
Caitlyn, is there anything else you want to say about your overall opinion on this film? Or, well, actually, I have one question before we go into the influence and significance, and I believe you said it already, but just to verify, you think that this was a good movie to remake, and do you think the remake did a good job of doing so? Talking about 1978, not the 2007 movie.
I think that it did a good job as a remake. I feel like this story is so basic that you have a lot of material to do remakes. And I think that this definitely expanded upon it. The themes that were initially brought up in the original.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's something you can even do more with this. And honestly, I said that no, you couldn't do a legacy sequel with this, but you definitely could. Of course, we would have to talk about it in spoilers. And then also, I have my idea for a remake. But I'm going to talk about that during its significance, during its political and social messages.
I feel like as a story, it's not a concept that excites me. That's why I think I was a little bit hesitant saying that if it needed a remake. Just because I feel like I know what I'm getting. I don't know that this remake fully pushed the bar to all the potential that could had, or in doing something different, but looking at it for its time, I think it did. But from a more modern lens, I'm not sure. But we can talk a little bit about more when we talk about if it holds up.
Yeah, we can say that for if it holds up. So I got some things to say about that as well. And I think you said it perfectly during its time, the timing for this, the time between 1956 and 1978. It would be different if you were to do it now. And I think that's because, and I want to mention this now because this is a concept that we've seen before. We've seen it plenty of times because this no longer only deals with aliens. We see this with the robots. Robots always want two things in movies, or one of two things. They want to protect the Earth, so they have to get rid of humans, or they decide that humans are a disgrace to themselves and a danger, and they need to get rid of them. We see it in Florence and the Machines. You saw it in Age of Ultron. It's something where humans had to be replaced.
Florence and the Machine?
What's that?
Did you say Florence and the Machine?
Oh, God dang, not Florence and the Machine. What is that movie?
Mitchell and the Machines?
Mitchell and the Machines.
Say Florence and the Machine, I mean, they're cool, but it's
Maybe
not a
she
movie.
has a song. That's the band's real agenda.
Yeah, I think even with the 2007 version, while I don't think it really pushed the envelope, I think it did have a slightly more negative view on humanity. I think that each kind of version of this story takes its own with how the world is seeing itself at the time, how society's seeing itself at the time. Because I think it was a little bit more pessimistic. You know, it had this idea that if aliens took over, then there's not going to be any more war or violence, which this one touches on, but I don't think it goes into it as much as that version does. So I feel like there's always something that is being brought out into this story from these remakes.
Which is interesting. The original came out 5 years after The Day the Earth Stood Still, which I think they have different views because Alien comes down in that movie and tells them they must live in peace or be destroyed. So they're already saying, like, humanity, you guys are screwed up. And then you have this movie came out 5 years later trying to convince that, hey, humanity has some good aspects to them. We love. I mean, that's what we always come back to, is that we love. We love so much that we kill each other for it.
Yep.
Caitlyn, do you want to go ahead and start us up on the influence and significance that this had?
Yeah, I'll
want to start with the influence or the significance?
I'll start with the significance and why this was kind of a big deal in this social setting. And one thing we mentioned previously in this podcast in our Night of Living Dead episode was that the 50s saw more of a shift towards realism in horror. It shifted to more like intimate stories, and I think that the 1956 version of this story kind of continues with that idea that was present in the 50s. And while the evil in this film isn't humans or zombies, it kind of is. It's humans just being manipulated by another force. So it's still humans in a way, but not so much. But I think an interesting parallel with these movies is The Thing. We talked about The Thing for a little bit because both are movies from the 50s and both have remakes in the late 70s, early 80s, and it has that central theme of paranoia and this idea that humans can't be trusted. And the 1956 version was largely believed to be a political commentary on communism and McCarthyism and this kind of witch hunt that was in the film industry for communists. And there was this really big scare that, oh my gosh, your neighbor or your friend, they might actually be a communist, oh no. And the director of the 1956 version, he said that was never meant to be intentional, but it certainly fit that environment. So likewise, I think the increased theme of paranoia in the remake was probably also helped by the social events of that time. So this would have been post-Watergate in Vietnam. So I think to believe that had a large factor on social consciousness. They moved this film to a city setting, which was different from the original film, to capture more of the paranoia of living in a big city that was present at that time. And more importantly to the reception, this film was also released just a few weeks after the Jonestown massacre. So one that led to an increased paranoia, but also led to more of this idea of individualism in American consciousness as opposed to a sense of community. And the characters in this story are largely alone. They can't trust anyone but themselves. And with that in mind, I can see why some of these darker themes were expanded more upon in The Thing, too, once we got to that, which we can talk a little bit more when we get into the influences.
What was the Jonestown massacre?
For the podcast or for you?
Do it for the podcast.
So, in short, the Jonestown Massacre, if you're not familiar, it took place in 1978, like I said. There was a cult led by Jim Jones, and they enacted a mass murder-suicide at the People's Temple's cult at the behest of their leader. And they, lived together at a compound that was, largely, with cults, there's this large sense of community, but that did lead to a huge, huge massacre. So that coming out just weeks after that, obviously I don't think this film was created with that in mind. It would have been, since it was so late in that stage of post-production. But, obviously, looking into this, you're going to have different thoughts as you go into this film just because of that event.
Yes, and actually, What's interesting, which is quite a coincidence, is that Man-Waring, I don't know how to pronounce that name, the original screenwriter, he was actually blacklisted during the McCarthyism, during the Red Scare in the 1950s. So Hollywood, they were blacklisting people as well that they believed to be part of the Communist Party. And while it wasn't an official list most of the time, a lot of people got together and they just say, hey, don't hire these people. So it did affected the industry as well. But even with him having been blacklisted, he agrees as well, or states as well, that this was not meant to be political. I mean, the shoe kind of fits on it. But if anything, this does have a social commentary with it, which is the individualism, like not conforming to society and being being human. What makes us human is having that emotion and that disagreement. Now, as far as the 1978, though, I was really surprised that this was not political because I watched the 1978 version first. And something that was very apparent to me the first time I watched it, even more so the second time, was the color red. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. I think with the blood, but I don't know. I wasn't sure if it was intentional, like with the blood. Like sometimes I think back then that when they did fake blood, it tended to be redder. But there was a lot of
yeah, that's
blood.
Just 1970s
okay.
blood. Yeah, that's just 1970s blood. But no, every scene in this movie, practically every scene in this movie has the color red.
And the flowers on the pods, aren't they red as well?
They're pink.
Oh, pinkish red.
I like light red. But there's a lot of objects have the color red. The characters are wearing red. The two female leads in this movie, there's a certain point in the movie that they're both wearing a full red outfit. Nimoy, I always say Nimoy. Nimoy, he shows up later in the movie and he's wearing I believe like a red turtleneck or a red undershirt. The color red, you see it in the beginning of the film, and then it becomes more apparent throughout the film. You start to see it a lot more, which again, I think is that movie kind of ramping up the tension in this film. Again, you have that claustrophobicness of all of it closing in, and it's done with the color red. So I'll say, go back, watch a couple scenes, like the book meeting scene is a good one. There's a lot of times when they're walking through the streets, because at first you just see one person wearing red, and then you see quite a few other people wearing red. Now, it doesn't turn into a flash mob at the end, but that color red is not a lot of times, the color red is much throughout the film. So I was thinking this film was commentary on the Red Scare. You had the color red, and during the Red Scare, they had everybody was afraid that their next door neighbor was a communist. So what better way to portray that than to have somebody wearing red, or you have the color red all around you, and you increase that paranoia. Because that's another thing it does too, is like, well, if they're wearing red, does that mean that they're infected? So you start to have a paranoia about that character based just on the color. So I found that really interesting, and I said it on the podcast before, I'm always really interested in the color usage of film. So I'll say this movie is really good to rewatch a second time to see things, especially that color red. But turns out this was not political, but I think the 1978, I think they took that, and I think that is the reason they used the color red. Okay. Whether they say it or not, I couldn't find anything that said it, but I feel like that had to be a big influence upon it.
Yeah, we talked before about how I didn't have interest in the 1956 version because of the politicalness to it. And I think that going into it, I thought that it really was an anti-communist story. That was my impression of the film before I watched it. And then watching it and then looking it up, I was actually surprised that it was never intended to be that.
I think so too, because we're both, well, even you more so, like our best courses were in English, and you're an English major, and a large portion of the English curriculum is about books having these hidden meanings in them, or
Mhm.
there being a metaphor or illusion. Like, what is Frankenstein about again? Like, what is truly about?
A lot of it has to do with motherhood and the author's views on parenthood.
Yeah, and then you have other ones like you could be reading something like Winnie the Pooh and his adventure to gain the honey from the tallest tree, and you finish reading it and you think it's just about that, and your teacher turns around and is like, "Yeah, that was about fascism." Like, what?
Yeah.
And then they point out all these things like, how? Oh, okay, I guess it works. So I don't know, maybe it gets us into that mindset of thinking that everything, especially back then, because you read a lot of those older books, and a lot of them that have been banned in libraries. I think a lot of times in English classes they let us know like, hey, this was actually the reason for this, or this was what this book was trying to say back then.
Yeah, to be fair, I think I did first hear about the original film in a US history class that during that what's it called? It's not interval. What's the word that's like a segment in what you're learning in school?
uh this God dang it, I was thinking curriculum, and then you have your synopsis, your syllable,
No, it's not it either.
syllabus.
No, it's not even that either. Your unit.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I think there's
yeah, I
another
got you.
word I'm
You're
thinking of,
the
but I
unit
think
that you're
unit will
in,
work. So okay, hold on, reset.
like a chapter.
Yeah,
The chapter in the curriculum.
yeah. To be fair, I think when I first really learned about the 1956 version, it was in my U.S. history class when we were doing the unit on McCarthyism and what was going on in Hollywood at that time. So I think this was brought into that conversation by my teacher as a highlight for that. So I think that's also why I had that idea, because I think it's actually taught in curriculums that this is what this was.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people really thought that with this movie, and people ran with it with articles as well. So make sure you guys are double checking, your bibliography and what you're reading, because sometimes it makes a lot of sense, but it's sometimes not true. You really got to look at what was their intention. Now it can be used. I mean, you can use this as an example. Possibly we talked about during Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump. I mean, it wasn't their intention for certain themes, but you can have somebody that goes ahead and takes from it. I know recently with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you were reading me a review about the remake that said that the remake, what was it? The remake goes ahead and it like tramples and it avoids the topic of vegetarianism and veganism, which was first developed in the original film. Like, that first original film had nothing to do with veganism or vegetarianism. Like, the creator said that, hey, this is what it's about. It's about the 1970s. It's about the youth against the adults and society at that time. It had nothing to do with being a vegetarian and being against. Oh yeah, they even say it was supposed to be like anti-slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where did you? Yeah, like I can see how you came about that. I can see like your leap to conclusion. I can watch you do that, but that was not the intention. Don't run with that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes both ways because obviously some conclusions are just completely off base. But at the same time, when you're reading a book, for example, like you said I was English major, in my English studies, it's very important that you view things from different angles. Like this is the historical context, this is the author's context, this is how this is read through feminist theory, this is how this is read through Marxist theory. Like, there's different things that all kind of come together, and I wouldn't say any of them is particularly more right or wrong than the other, but you kind of have to consider all of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of inference,
Mm-hmm,
and it helps sometimes just to talk to the source as well. That's probably why the Bible is so divisive, and people infer it in so many different ways, and we can't find like shut some people down with it because we can't talk to the source anymore. Or some people claim they talk to the source, and it said to scorch the earth.
Yeah. I do think once.
Now, with
Go ahead.
No. I think with now I said before that a remake could be done with this, and I don't mean so much in a legacy sequel, but I think now is it will be a good time. You can make this a political remake in current topics, which earlier this year we had one of the mass shootings, which it sucks that we have to say one of the mass shootings, but I forget which one it was, which is also unfortunate, but it was the one with the replacement theory.
Mm.
The guy had a manifesto and it had the replacement theory, and it was largely based on the fear that white people are being replaced by people of color. And that replacement theory isn't new. It's something, actually, I was watching West Side Story and finally like clicked in my head while I was watching it. And the Jets or the Sharks, whichever one the white people are, they were afraid of being replaced in their own neighborhood because now they had the Latinx community moving in, and they felt like they were being pushed out. We even saw with Do the Right Thing when they felt like they were being the black people within the city felt like they were being pushed out by these new store owners. There's a huge fear of being replaced, and it's become a recent topic because, and it fits what we're talking about. We're talking about films, we're talking about Hollywood, because it is happening. I mean, I don't think the fear is justified, but I can see where people get the fear from because, yeah, literally white people are being replaced right now. And I would say it's for the better. And the reason for it is because it shouldn't have been what it was like to begin with, which is that the representation. There's not a lot of black people or people of color that are playing just natural roles, just non-color based roles. But also now we're seeing a lot of remakes where white main characters are being replaced with people of color. Right now, James Bond is a huge topic. They're thinking about replacing him with a person of color. And it's not just people of color, it's also women. We're having remakes with women, some good, some bad. Ghostbusters was a huge one. Star Wars has been a huge topic with black people coming in, people of Asian orientation coming in, taking roles, a woman leading the role. Now, Star Wars has a lot of issues. Diversity is not one of them. Actually, I love, I'm not a huge fan of Star Wars, but I love what the creators, producers, whatever, what they said about Star Wars in a reaction to the recent controversy, which was there's 1 million species out in the galaxy. Don't choose to be a racist. So I can see the fear. Like the fear is there, it makes sense. I mean, it literally, white people are being replaced, but again, it's because it shouldn't have been the way to begin with. It shouldn't have just been one race that was controlling a large medium. And when you see it like that, it's not so bad. But I think this movie could be, you can make one now, and you can either kind of make one with that message really hidden, or you can make that message outright and make it a satire. Though with satires, you have to be a very clever writer to make it work and not make it offensive. But I was thinking about it while watching these movies. It's like, man, it would be interesting just to see, like, you have a society like a majority like white person city, controlled city, and then for their like family members and spouses to be replaced with actual black people, but for them to like say that something is different, but everybody's looking at that person like, no, that's always been your wife. Like, but like literally they like change color and everything, and they're like, I don't know what's different about them, but I don't know what it is. But then the camera turns and you see, and like, okay, that's literally a whole different, not only a different person, that's a different ethnicity with them. And but you would have to be really clever for that and not make it offensive. But I do have the best ending for it, which is like two friends are running away the whole time, and then he thinks he sees his buddy that he got split up with. He thinks he sees him in the distance, and he runs up to him, and the guy turns around, and it's just a black person in whiteface doing a rendition of Jazz Singer. And he just scream, and then credits.
Yeah, that would be an interesting take on this, because I would have never thought about that. But you definitely need a director who, because it is kind of satire. It definitely is a large commentary, probably even bigger than what we already have with these films. So you definitely need a director that can handle that and handle it with tact and also just make it entertaining.
Yeah, especially when and it depends like how overt you want the message to be, because you can do it two ways. You can do the satire, which is very overt, and then you can kind of put in like a hidden meaning, like possibly 1978 did with the color red and communism. You just kind of throw it out there, and I kind of ended with a joke, but in being serious, so it being a current topic too. That's why you need somebody that's sensitive to it and can make a good point, because I think I think movies like Candyman didn't do a good job with their message, and I think it turned it out to be kind of offensive. There was also the movie last year, Karen, which was one of the worst movies last year that could have been a possible satire, but they just went too crazy with it. So there's a very keen balance with it.
Yeah, I've not seen Karen.
It looks horrible.
It looks awful. But yeah, I agree, and I think that it is definitely very timely.
Hopefully Jordan Peele's listening, taking down notes.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I got you guys.
Thanks, Jordan. I think the only other, thing that I saw, that had maybe a social connotation was, since that you can only be taken over when you go to sleep, I thought that was also a social metaphor, because, you're closing your eyes, you're making yourself ignorant to the world around you so that you can live your life without control. So I thought that was a little bit overt.
Oh, so are you saying that the message was to stay woke?
Yeah.
Don't close your eyes, sheeple.
Yeah, maybe
also
it probably wasn't. Maybe it wasn't as overt back then, but now from our perspective, that definitely seemed overt to me.
And I mean, the stuff that they were throwing out did look kind of like steel wool and pulling the wool over your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, or whatever the heck that nasty thing growing on them was.
Yeah. I almost lost my footing with that reach, though. What influence have you seen from this movie, or you read about?
I really feel that between this film and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, we kind of get a really solid foundation for basically every Alien movie that came after. I feel like watching movies in Alien Invasion movies or Alien Encounter movies, there's so much that goes back to one of these films.
Yeah, you definitely. I feel like these movies hit that silent invasion alien films. Though again, I would say it doesn't cover the active. I think it was something like Super 8 and Arrival, really, and maybe not even so much Arrival, but an alien actually coming down and destroying things, like Cloverfield. Though Cloverfield wasn't an alien, was it? It was didn't it come out of the water or something?
I think it was. I thought about Cloverfield, and I thought it was kind of I don't know. I get confused between that and The Mist. No, I think Cloverfield is aliens, and then The Mist is they made a rift through a multi-dimension. I think.
I thought...
The Mist definitely is the military were messing up with technology, and they made a rift. But I don't remember if Cloverfield was the same premise, or if it was actually aliens.
Yeah, I forget what I think that was one of his things, that it was ambiguous.
Gotcha.
I think there were some web promotions out there that kind of suggested what occurred.
Mm-hmm. But Super 8, you brought up Super 8, but that is totally Spielberg-esque.
Yeah, but wasn't that an active alien threat?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying, but even so, I just mean every alien movie, while it might have some other things that makes it different, there are still things that go back to these two films. It lays a foundation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It definitely has the foundation for that. Also, the term pod people, talking about alien and alien films. It's funny, the term pod people is never used in these films or in the book, but that's what people just started calling the people of these films, pod people, and it's just become a term. There's even a movie called Invasion of the Pod People, which is the one I was talking to you about earlier in the show. Mystery Science Theater 3000, they do an episode on it. It's one of their better episodes as well. I recommend it if you like MST3K or have an interest in it. It's a good episode, but that was a clear kind of ripoff from this movie.
Yeah, I know in the show, Freaks and Geeks, some of the geeky kids are calling the popular kids pod people. I guess because they follow the trends, they're not original or something.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely there as well. And there's been a lot of parodies
Mm-hmm.
of this, whether they're outright saying pod people, if they're doing some of the famous scenes in here. Uh, Community, a show we both
Mm-hmm.
watch, has done that. Has done the ending of this film. Rick and Morty has done an episode of this recently. Peacekeeper, or no, my bad, Peacemaker. They're the show's plot is very similar to this one, where humans are getting taken over. The anime Parasite, which is a really good anime,
Is it?
so on Netflix, yeah, it's really good anime. It goes into a lot of the themes. It actually goes into it more because it is an anime. It has more episodes to do so, as to what makes you human. Uh, I really like that. Yeah, I really like that anime. I think that was really well done. But it's, yeah, like very similar to even how this movie starts up is how that anime starts up, with the aliens coming down and then taking over people, and they become more of an active threat.
Gotcha. Okay. I know I'm always. I think I just assume all Netflix anime are bad.
I did too, but I mean they did pull from, they didn't make it themselves.
Yeah.
They got it from somebody else. And it's yeah, it's a great anime. It's one of the ones I would recommend, especially if you ask me like what are the best animes on Netflix that you can stream right now. Parasite is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
And then again, the topic of individualism is something that we've seen consistently with robots, with aliens. They come down and say, hey, humans, we're doing this for you. Because if we take your emotion away, then you can be better. Like, we'll make you guys better. And of course, humans going to say, well, no, like, we love being a human. We love being flawed. This also kind of reminds me of an episode of Fairly Odd Parents, in which Timmy wishes that everybody was one and the same, and everybody is the same, like, gray blob. Though it's funny because the humans, like, they still find a way to be racist towards each other. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, no, you're like a slightly less gray.
Yep.
This definitely has had an influence. It will continue to have an influence throughout pop culture, and it's a good premise to play on. It really is.
Mm.
I think sometimes with the robots, it gets a little too much. Actually, I think we're seeing it a little too much with villains nowadays. With, hey, I'm trying to get rid of humanity to make things better or to save Earth or whatever.
Yeah. I do agree with that. I do think with other alien properties, like I said, there's just like so many different alien properties that you can just bring back to this. I mean, one of my favorite shows when I was younger was Roswell. Just really 90s camp favorite, wonderful. The WB shows before it was CW. Good stuff.
Oh,
But they definitely played along with the whole "Are there aliens among us?" because the aliens in that series, they were born from pods and they resembled humans. And then there's also the novel The Host by the Twilight author Stephanie Meyer, which, I mean, think what you will about her, but she did have a book that was pretty much just the same concept of Body Snatchers, but the humans were hosts to alien parasites who take over the body, and they wanted to remake the world. But they don't have the capacity for human emotions like love, and she really, because she's a romance author, she definitely played that up, the idea of love and that being a human thing. There's also the whole Secret Invasion comics, if you want to go into Marvel comics. Like, there's just so many different things that can pull from this.
and who would you recommend this to between the general audience and the cinephiles?
Are we doing both the 1956 and the 78?
Yeah, go ahead and separate them.
The 1956, I think if you want to know that film history, or if you are, or you do have an interest in the whole Red Scare and McCarthyism, even though it wasn't supposed to be that, it's there. If you are interested in that and some of the media that came out during that time, I think go ahead and watch that from a historical context. But I don't know, but I would recommend that to a general audience. Like I said, I was pretty bored watching it. The 78, I would definitely recommend more to a general audience. I think that you need to give it to someone who's going to be a little bit more open-minded in watching something that maybe it's a theme that you've already seen before, because I think that might be a hindrance to some people. You just kind of have to take it for what it is at its time.
I would recommend the original to cinephiles, again, just to see where the remake comes from. The remake is the one that I will always recommend first, and I would recommend that from a general audience to a cinephile. I think there's enough for the general audience to enjoy in it, and I think for cinephiles, there's even more that they could find in the film, like the colors and the sounds, and I think the cast can be appreciated by both. I would just say, though, if you're interested in both films, if you are that cinephile that wants to know where the remake came from, I would just say give it some time. Separate the movies. Don't watch them back to back, because one of them is going to make you bored of the other if you do that, because they are very similar. So I think it's best to watch them separately. I don't know how much time. Just give it some time. Give it more than a day.
Would you recommend? So I watched the 1956 before I watched the remake. So would you recommend watching it that way?
No, I would recommend watching the remake first.
Interesting. Okay. Why is that?
Because I think with the remake having more in it and doing the same thing, one, it's more accessible. I also think it is the better film. So now if someone is to watch the film and they say, well, I think I got everything, I'm not going to watch the other film, which can happen, or maybe they forget to watch the other one. Like if I was to sit somebody down and, this is like, you sometimes only have one chance. So I will give them the 1978 version, because I think it's the better and more elaborated version.
I feel like for me, though, I had a little bit more appreciation of the 78 version because I didn't like 56.
Interesting.
Yeah. I feel like if I had done it separately, then I would have been a little bit more miserable.
I didn't. I forget if I knew that there was an original or not when I first watched the 1978 version, but I watched the 1978 version first. I didn't have that option, but I was having watched it for the third time yesterday and then watching it this morning, the original. I found myself a bit bored with the original, and I feel like if I had separated it, I wouldn't have minded the original so much.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking, is that, like, I was already bored of the original. If I had watched the other one first, I would have been even more bored.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say, again, like, if you only had that one chance,
yeah.
because I would say the original was more out of curiosity than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, if you were to have the better film, it would be the first, the original.
You mean a remake?
The original remake, yes.
Okay. But yeah, I agree. Like, if you're only watching one, definitely watch the remake.
Yeah. And don't watch the other ones. I know they don't have the best reception. Actually, I said I was going to mention the 2007 one because it was going to come into contrast with one of my points, and that is the atmosphere. I think this movie really works well as an atmospheric and psychological horror, something that may be considered elevated almost today. Though I don't think it's as artsy as the elevated horror. But the 2007, from watching the trailer, again, it could just be the way it's cut. But from looking at it and the time period, it seems like it's a lot more action oriented. Even reading the description, it says, but could her son save the world? So it has that whole, this one person, this one prodigy can be the key to civilization and to save humanity. It sets it up, and it sounds a lot like an action film.
Yeah, I don't remember too much about the plot points. It was a long time when I watched it, and it was just kind of something that was on TV. But I do think it was a lot more action-oriented.
Yeah, it looked a lot more stylized. And it was weird watching the trailer. It didn't make any mention of that boy being the key. Actually, I forgot the boy was even in there. I was like, are they ever gonna... I guess that was just a plot.
Yeah, I don't remember the boy. So, I don't know. I just remember Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, and I think there is a reason for the boy, and I think that is to make the ending, to give humans more of a fighting chance towards this. I won't spoil the endings of these movies, but these movies do have different endings, and there was some studio involvement in one of them, and that's why it ends the way that it does, and another one not so much. But you have to watch the movie and stick around for our spoiler review, which we're going to go ahead and get into now, unless you have anything to add, Caitlyn?
Nope.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open up the classified folder. So if you have not seen this movie yet, please proceed with caution. We'll be spoiling this movie, even though for me this movie was spoiled before I went in, because the ending is something that you probably already seen. You've probably seen the ending scene is very famous for a lot of reasons. So unfortunately, things may be spoiled for you already. However, there's more to this film than just the ending. And like we said, we definitely recommend for you to watch this movie. I recommend you see the 1978 version. If you do have a interest in watching the original, Caitlyn and I, we have different views on it. So choose who you trust more.
Do we have different views?
What did you say?
Do we have different views on the original?
Well, you said watch the original first. I say watch the original second after some time.
Yeah, but I think we both agreed that if you only are going to watch one, watch the 1978.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like, in general, more people should just watch the 1978.
Yeah, just watch the 1978.
Yeah, I think I'm not recommending the 50s one unless for some reason you really want to.
Yeah, unless you're really like, I gotta watch the original first, which I am like that sometimes, but this was not one of those times.
Gotcha.
All right, moving into it. Gonna go ahead and let these pods grow.
Are we going ahead and talking about the ending then?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the ending. You want to start it?
Yeah, I can start it. So the ending was never spoiled for me. I didn't know it. I didn't know that it was coming from like my outside knowledge of the film. But was I surprised? No. I was kind of a little bit shocked when I looked online and saw all the praise it was getting for the ending that it had, because I didn't really think it was anything that special.
We're talking about the original or the remake?
The remake.
I think for the remake, I think it's also a timely thing, especially when you're coming from the original, especially with it being that, I mean, we've been getting some bleak endings, especially think in the 1970s we were, but I think there's so many things that is great with that ending. But for me, I had already seen the Donald Sutherland pointing out with his mouth opening and screaming. Like I've already seen that in some, not clips of this movie, but just clips of things overall, or like that screenshotted for some reason to represent this movie. I would say kind of like I was kind of lying to myself. Like I was going through denial. I was going through my 5 stages of grief. Okay. I was like, man, he's just blending in. He's just blending in. Oh, Donald Sutherland. Ain't nobody taking down the Donald Sutherland. Oh, Donnie over here. Donnie Suh. No one's taking him down. And then, nope. He opens up his mouth and he points, and that squeal comes out. And you're like, dang, they got him too. And yeah, I think it was just it's a cool twist ending. Because I think you're thinking at that time, like, he's going to make it. Like, he's the protagonist. He has... For so far in this film, he's been able to take care of things. He's handled health inspectors. They handle things, and that's what Donald Sutherland was doing. He was handling things, and you don't see him get captured. So you think that, hey, maybe he is just conforming and he's made it, but unfortunately not. Now there was an alternate ending, but they didn't shoot it, and the alternate ending was Donald Sutherland looking at Veronica Cartwright and them giving each other a gesture like, hey, like we're still human. Now they didn't shoot it because they didn't want the studio to re-edit it and to use it. And because that's actually what happened with the original film. The original film was supposed to end with him screaming out to the cars like, they're coming to get you next. That's how the film was supposed to end. But the studio came in, Paramount, looking at you again. God dang it, Paramount. You know, you've been in our good graces because of Top Gun Maverick, but man, you got a shady past. I don't know how it's been moderately, but they had them add in that part where, okay, we found some other humans. We have time to warn the FBI. We're closing down the highway. Things seem like they're going to be good. But which ending did you prefer? Because I prefer the 1978.
I didn't like the 1956 ending. I honestly don't really like either of them. I think with the 1978, I would have preferred the ending where he was still human. Because like I said, I feel like for me, there was just no... Like, I had just assumed that he was caught because why else would he go back to the health department if he was... So I made the assumption from the beginning, from that moment, after he kind of like disappeared from the explosion, that he was infected. So for me, I think it would have been more of a twist if he was still alive. Not a twist. I don't think either of them are really big twists. I think either of them is like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. But I feel like for me, because I had anticipated him being an alien, that it would have been nice to see him not. But maybe that's just me though, so.
Yeah, no, I can see that because I think if they took out the whole like him walking around and being back at his job, I think if they took that out and just went straight to her scene, I think that would have been a bigger twist.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think for me, I was kind of double twisting myself. So I was trying to, I was like, okay, they're showing me all of this to throw me off my game, for me to think that he's conformed to go back around. But no, they pull the double bamboozle and like the whole triple agent on me. And it turns out that he's actually, and I was like, okay.
The double bamboozle. But yeah, so
double bam.
I feel like neither of these had strong endings for me, personally. I do think that image of him screaming and pointing, it definitely is iconic. But I feel like overall the ending was just like, okay, this is ended. And I feel like
Or
even
maybe.
too that like looking at the runtime of like when this final like moment was happening, like when they were like finally running away and then he leaves her and comes back to her, like where that happened in both of these films, I'm like, I feel like I was expecting something more after those moments. Like I feel like just like, I don't know, I just expected something more towards the end and I just didn't get it from either of those films.
Well, in the remake, he goes back and he blows up all the plants in that extra.
Yes, that's true. I honestly, that part was one of those moments where it dragged for me a bit.
I like that part.
I said, I
Wow.
think that
Way to not.
Huh.
That extra gave his life for
I
that
know,
scene.
I'm sorry.
And you pay him no respect.
No, I mean, I think that, like, where this film really shined was, one, those horror elements, because, I mean, they were intriguing, they're engaging, and also just, like I said, the interactions between the characters. So, like, when you kind of took that away in certain parts, it was just like, okay.
Yeah, I can see. I see that. And I feel
And
we
the
talked
dread,
about that. I
and
can't
the
remember the film.
atmosphere. I feel like at that ending point, like, it's not worried about the atmosphere anymore.
Yeah, at that point, it's gone. And we've seen that. I think we were talking about it with some horror films. I know last night in Soho, we kind of touched on it, but how sometimes horror films kind of just drop the ending and go into like a straightforward territory. Like they know they have to end it, and I don't know, for some reason that ending doesn't have the same creative padding to it. What else about this movie that we can really spoil? I feel like that's the biggest spoiler here.
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised at all with the relationship between Donald Sutherland and Elizabeth, that they did end up together?
No, not at all. Donald Sutherland he's putting down the work. Like the foundation was there.
Was it?
And I'm just looking over. I'm like, that house is almost built. And then Joffrey, he got taken out of the picture, and I was like, yep.
Joffrey. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see it going there, but I feel like I didn't feel much chemistry between those two characters by themselves in the romantic way. I think they were good pals, but I feel like the romantic chemistry was lacking a little bit for me.
I think the chemistry was there, though. And plus, because I'm more, I like a platonic relationship more a lot of times, and I think the platonic relationship here was working. But I don't know, maybe this is the third time I was watching it. I was seeing the romance there a lot more. Maybe I was seeing some more subtle hints, and there's just some I was like, okay, Donald, you gotta back off a bit. Like she's still there were like some scenes where he's just kind of hovering over her, and he's like, if you don't want to go back home, I got some wine. Like wine of all things. But they did have a cool platonic relationship, and I always wish in movies we see that more. And I think this would have been a great movie where they had that platonic relationship. I think maybe because we had that love in the last movie, we have it here. But again, I think also her wanting to be with him and having that romantic interest gives you that excuse that maybe everything is inside her head, and that's the reason she wants something to be wrong with her boyfriend, is because she wants to be with Donald Sutherland. When Leonard Nimoy is telling him that. I'm going to continue stuttering over that name.
Yeah, I definitely agree that this had a really, really good platonic relationship, and I really liked that platonic relationship. So then when it kind of went in more romantic direction, I was like, all right, fine. I don't really know that there's anything else that's really spoilers. I will say, something I did miss in our influence that it had was the dog with the human face. The Unborn did that too. I think it was The Unborn. And so I thought it was interesting to see an influence that wasn't sci-fi. It was an influence that was actually horror.
Yeah, which one was Unborn?
I think that was one where, wasn't it like her twin, like in utero, that was haunting her?
That dog face, I feel like I saw it in Rick and Morty or something else. Something recently I watched parry that as well. 2009 Unborn? Is it the one with the poster that is clearly sexualized to bring in an
2009.
audience?
Maybe you
Did you see this movie poster?
No. Which movie poster?
For The Unborn 2009. Look on IMDb. It's ridiculous. You can tell it's going to be a bad horror movie because they got nothing else going for this movie other than that they're like, hey, this is a dumb horror movie, but our female lead,
Cheeked up. Yep. Nope. Yeah, I did not see that poster. But yeah, it has a demon dog though with the face. It's like more of a mask though, but
yeah. Oh, Idris Elba, man, Idris Elba put in some work.
yeah, I was like, Idris Elba's in this? Huh. Demon dog.
Oh, Carla Gugino is in this as well.
I don't know who that is. I didn't know Gary Oldman was in it either.
Megan Good, Jane Alexander. I don't know who the main actress is. They have all these like known people. Luckily, none of their careers ended, but hers apparently did. Oh, she was Beth in Cloverfield.
Oh.
Is she the one that everybody hated?
Yeah. She's the one that they like did that whole thing for, wasn't it?
Yeah,
They're risking her life.
They went back for her.
Beth.
God dang Beth.
Freaking
She was in Supergirl.
Interesting. So she has a slight career.
She aged really well.
I think you just went from trashing her to, actually.
Actually, you know what? I think she may have a nice personality. Her film career isn't the best, but maybe there's something else we can talk about other than her filmography.
But that demon dog was just freaking weird. Why do I keep calling it demon dog? The alien dog with the face. The dog with the human face.
The homeless man dog. That was foreshadowed.
Yeah, it was freaking weird.
Yeah. Well, you know how that became,
was
right?
It foreshadowed?
Yeah, it's Donald Sutherland. There's a pod sleeping next to a homeless man, and he can't wake up the homeless man. The homeless man is there with his dog, so he kicks the pod, and the pod starts leaking. So something went wrong with the pod, so it combined that homeless man and the dog together.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. But I figured it was a malfunction of some sort. But I liked it for the horror element.
I will say for this one, it made more sense for her to freak out and lose her composure than the original.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The original, she lost it just because the dog ran in front of the truck, and she's like, "Oh my god!" I would have been stone faced. But I don't know if I would have had that. If I would have been able to keep my cool seeing that face on the dog.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Time to run.
Her poor womanly nerves in the 1956 version got the best of her.
I'm surprised she didn't faint. Oh no.
Oh no.
Start fanning her.
Jeez.
Get the house doctor. Give her morphine. The
dog makes more sense.
Now, what I love more than that dog is what happens right next with the old woman. When she calls out Donald Sutherland, she starts pointing, and Donald Sutherland just knocks her out.
Yeah, that was great too. That was amazing. That was great.
No hesitation.
Yep.
Yeah, I like how this movie. Yeah, it just at first everything's kind of sparse, and they start to slowly come in, so they're just completely surrounded. It happens so quick. That's why I think this film can't really end on such a positive note, is because it's inevitable at this point. Like, it's spread too quickly. Now, I think you could do a legacy sequel. We're talking about spoilers. I mean, Jeff Goldblum, We've seen him in one Legacy sequel already, and Donald Sutherland is still out there acting. I don't know about Veronica Cartwright.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive. He was in Hunger
not
Games.
Still alive, is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought he just turned. After that.
No, he just turned 80. I think he just turned 85.
I don't know why I thought that he was.
Yeah. I mean, Leonard Nimoy passed away 2015. I believe he's the same age as Donald Sutherland at the time.
Okay.
And Donald Sutherland. So they could do like Veronica Cartwright and like a band of the last humans, and you can have Donald Sutherland and Jeff Goldblum hunting them down.
Yeah. I feel like that would take it to a very different type of movie, though.
Oh, it most definitely will. But Caitlyn, money. Money.
You're right.
So does this film hold up for you? Looking at both films separately?
I think it would hold up more for me if The Thing didn't exist. I think we talked about the similarities between those. I think The Thing takes what this starts and perfects it. So I think if it wasn't for that, yeah, I'd say hold up. But I think the overall story holds up. I think the idea of, oh, there's someone living among you and you don't know. I think that obviously is going to hold up, and we're going to see that over and over again. But as a film in general, I feel like I would rather watch The Thing.
I would rather watch The Thing than a lot of movies. But yeah, in a sense, I see what you're saying. But I think the difference between The Thing and this movie here is that The Thing is more about the paranoia. It's more about the external plot. And I think, and that one's a lot of trying to figure out who's infected and who's not. Really plays into that mystery, and a lot more with the claustrophobicness, because you are in that one location, and outside is the elements. Mm-hmm. But with
it's a much colder version, not just setting, but just in general, like the atmosphere, I think, is a lot colder than what this one is.
And it's a lot more, I mean, it is a threat to the world, but it's not as much as this is. And I think I think these movies, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I think that they can be more social and political, like they have more of that opportunity. And I think for its time, it's said enough for its individualism, but we've seen it. I mean, I think it does. The only reason that, and you were talking about the passage of time, I mean, we've seen it done over and over and over again so many times. But I think for the time that it came out, if we were to watch it then, it would have been a lot more. I mean, it was groundbreaking, but I think it would have been a lot more expansive in perception. But I think we just have so much out now that's. I mean, we could probably do with a remake that says a lot with this concept, but I think it still holds up. Again, we always talk about it. Practical effects, they always hold up, or they usually hold up when done well. I think they do really well in here. I mean, you're gonna be kind of split when it comes to the dog and the homeless man. I think though, just like the shock of that is it holds up, whether it's like good or not. It's just the fact that they went with that is enough just to be like, okay, like you're either gonna shock because it scares you or because you're gonna laugh. Either way, it's gonna get you.
But I think that I felt the dog held up. I think like maybe they probably stood on it a little bit too long, but if you didn't stay on the shot quite as long, it definitely would have held up.
And I think the acting in both these movies holds up. I don't think the 1950s is too overdramatic, because I mean you're gonna notice a little bit of it, but I think that one even holds up as well. So I agree. Both of these movies hold up, but if you're looking now, I will say it depends what you're looking for. If you are looking for more of that paranoia and mystery and trying to know who's who, and you want to follow along with the movie, yeah, definitely watch The Thing. That is going to do in that aspect better than what Invasion of the Body Snatchers did. But I think for atmosphere and social commentary alone, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that's where it capitalizes on.
I think it's hard for me with some of these classics, like we see it differently for different movies, but some of these movies that we review, the tropes in it are just so iconic and they're everywhere that obviously there's going to be something that does it a little bit different, a little bit better down the road, just because there's so many different ways it's shown. But you also have to give it credit for being the originator of that.
Oh, always.
Yeah. So it's hard. Like, yes, it holds up, but at the same time, this might not be my best example of what I'm getting from this movie.
Yeah, we talked about it extensively in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I believe, because that movie really is not that great, but you got to give credit for it being one of the slasher startups, one of having one of the first iconic horror characters out there. With all that said, where do you hold this film as far as overall rating? 2 films, separate ratings. Where do you see it?
Okay, so let's start with the 1956. This one is one that I enjoyed the least of the 2 movies, but I do think there's a lot of good things in it for its time. So I'll give it a B minus. I think the B for overall and then the minus for my enjoyment of it. But actually, I don't think I'm going to go for the 1978. I don't think I'm going to go that much above it. I think I'm more of a B plus. Just because I think that I'm grading it. I think for the 1978, I'm grading it more harshly for my enjoyment. But as far as like the cinematography and stuff goes, like I did really enjoy the 1956 version, which I was surprised out, but it was lacking for me in the 78. But I do think that the 78 is still miles more enjoyable to watch than the 1956.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't show in my rating, per se.
I'll go ahead for the same rating and the same reasons for the original 1956, a B minus. I'm going to go a little bit higher than you for the 1978. I'm going to go ahead with A minus. I do agree. I think sometimes the movie drags just a little bit, but I think this movie just does so many things right and is such an example for atmospheric horror, and also the casting, not the casting, but the cast and their performances being so great. I would have to give it additional points, so I'll say A minus.
Yeah, that's fair. The cast was really good in this film.
Any final comments for this film?
No, I don't think I have anything. I think I'm pretty set with what I got. I think that these are films. Well, I guess I do have something. I think that these are films that a lot can be taken out of them, and so I think that I think a lot of subjective thought goes into these films because there is a lot, I think, that is up for your interpretation, which more than I thought that there would be with these films. But like talking about it and the things that we're able to pull out of it, and not just the social ways, but just in general, I think there's some really solid themes in these films.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Makes for good conversation. Even if you talk about what wasn't their intention, still makes for great conversation. And like we said, it's also, you can even talk about it now in a timely sense. So this assignment has been completed, and looking forward to the next one, as always. And this one's going to be in anticipation to another film. That's right, we're going to go ahead and actually have another Legacy sequel next month in August. Prey, the prequel to Predator, is coming out, and I have to say, so far, it's looking pretty good. The sequels to Predator have always been really shaky. There's a lot of there's a lot of mixed views on them, but I think everybody agrees, of course, the first one is the best. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that and its franchise as well. However, we're not doing Alien vs. Predator, because Alien vs. Predator Requiem is my, I would say, second or third worst film I've ever seen in my life. I really don't want to see that again. And you know what? You don't have to see it to understand Predator and its legacy. Now, granted, if they do another Alien vs. Predator, fine. I'll sit down and watch it again. But for anticipation of that film, we're actually going to be doing Predator. Yeah, that's right. Somebody here trying to wear camouflage right now and blend in has not seen Predator. And I'm just wondering which family member failed you, Caitlyn, because My family did right. My mom showed me this movie.
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm just surprised because you talked about your family and the movies they got you to watch. I'm surprised none of them sat you down to watch Predator.
Nope.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and gear up for the jungle, smother ourselves in some mud, do a bunch of one-liners, some that don't really age that well, some that we may have to apologize for.
Oh,
we're gonna have fun with it. So until then, Caitlin, where can they find us? Because also we stated that we may be doing a list for our top favorite alien invasion movies.
Mm-hmm.
And where would they be able to get that information?
Yeah, and we're going to be posting that on our social media sites. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at OpSilverScreen. On Facebook, we're going to be at Operation Silver Screen, but Twitter and Instagram, it's OpSilverScreen. You can also find me and Bryant on our personal letterboxes if you want to just see what we're watching throughout the week and maybe see some of our reviews for some other films that we're not tackling on this podcast. You can find Bryant at Swank Seal, that's capital S, and I'm going to be at Coffee Spoon Kate, that's Coffee Spoon CAIT. So follow us on there. We look forward to hearing what your top alien invasion movies are as well, so feel free to share that with us.
Till the next assignment, we'll be in HQ. I'm Bryant.
And I'm Caitlin.
See you.